The rescue was simple. Loving her mother? That would cost him everything. Wild West 1881 inches the bullet missed his ear by an inch. Jack Carter dove behind the water trough as 3 more shots splintered the wood above his head. He had been in Silver Creek for exactly 4 minutes, and someone already wanted him dead. The telegram in his pocket felt like it was burning through the leather. Come quick. They took my daughter. Please help. The signature belonged to a woman he had spent 5 years trying to forget. Jack rolled to his left and came up with both revolvers drawn. The shooter was on the hotel roof, a skinny man with a rifle that looked too big for him. Jack fired twice. The first shot hit the chimney beside the shooter. The second made the man drop his rifle and scramble for the ladder. Jack did not chase him. He had bigger problems than a hired gun with poor aim. The saloon doors swung open and a big man in a sheriff badge stepped out. His face was red and his hand rested on his gun. Jack recognized the type immediately. The kind of lawman who got paid by someone other than the town. The kind who looked the other way when the wrong people did wrong things. You need to leave, the sheriff said. His voice was flat and hard. Right now. Jack holstered one revolver but kept the other in his hand. I am just passing through. Someone shot at me first. I did not see anyone shoot at you, the sheriff said. But I saw you fire your weapon inside town limits. That is against the law. Your law or his law? Jack nodded toward the general store across the street. A man stood in the window watching them. He wore an expensive suit that had no place in a town like Silver Creek. His face was thin and cruel, and when he smiled it looked like a snake showing its teeth. The sheriff took a step forward. I do not know what you are talking about. Sure you do not. Jack backed toward his horse. I will be at the old Murphy place if anyone needs me. Tell your boss I said hello. The ride to the Murphy ranch took 20 minutes. Jack knew every rock and tree on this land. He had worked here once, back when Catherine Murphy was just a girl with wild red hair and dreams bigger than the desert sky. Before she married Gerald Hayes and became someone Jack could not have. Before he left Silver Creek and spent 5 years trying to outrun the memory of her laugh. The ranch house looked smaller than he remembered. The paint was peeling and several fence posts had fallen over. A woman stood on the porch with a shotgun. She looked older and tired, but her eyes were the same green that had haunted his dreams. Catherine. You came, she said. Her voice cracked on the second word. You asked. Jack dismounted and tied his horse. Where is your husband? Dead. 6 months ago. Heart gave out. Catherine lowered the shotgun. That is when the trouble started. Victor Lang owns half the county now. He wants my land. He wants everything. Victor Lang. The man in the suit? You met him already? Not formally. He sent someone to shoot at me. Jack walked up the porch steps. This close, he could see the lines around Catherine's eyes and the gray in her hair. Time had been harder on her than it should have been. Tell me about your daughter. Catherine's hand shook as she set the shotgun against the wall. Her name is Emma. She is 16. 3 days ago, she rode into town to buy supplies. She never came back. Lang's men took her. They said they will keep her safe as long as I sign over the ranch. I have until tomorrow at noon. You should sign, Jack said. Land is not worth your daughter's life. It is not about the land. Catherine looked at him, and for a moment she was 19 again, standing in the barn and telling him she was engaged to Gerald Hayes, telling him she had to marry a man with money and prospects, telling him goodbye. Emma looks just like me. Lang does not just want the ranch. He wants me to work in his saloon. He wants to own me. If I sign, Emma gets free, but I disappear. If I do not sign, he keeps Emma and takes the ranch anyway. Jack felt something cold settle in his chest. Where is he keeping her? I do not know. His men took her somewhere outside town. I have looked everywhere. Catherine stepped closer. She smelled like lavender and wood smoke. I know I have no right to ask this. I know what I did to you. But Emma's innocent. She does not deserve this because of my mistakes. Your mistakes? Jack repeated. The words tasted bitter. Is that what we were? A mistake? That is not what I meant. It does not matter. Jack turned away from her. I will find Emma. You stay here and keep that shotgun loaded. If anyone comes before I get back, you shoot first and ask questions never. Understand? Jack. Catherine touched his arm. Her hand was warm through his shirt. Thank you. He did not answer. He could not trust himself to speak without saying something he would regret. He had spent 5 years building walls around his heart, and she had just walked through them like they were made of smoke. Jack rode back toward Silver Creek as the sun started to set. He needed information, and there was only one place to get it. The Golden Rose Saloon sat on the edge of town like a rotten tooth. It was where Lang's men drank and where secrets got traded for whiskey money. It was also where people who asked too many questions sometimes disappeared. Jack tied his horse behind the building and went in through the back door. The bartender was a short man named Pete who owed Jack a favor from years ago. Pete's eyes went wide when he saw Jack. "You should not be here," Pete whispered. "Lang put a price on your head. $500 for whoever brings you in." "Dead or alive?" Jack asked. He did not specify. "That means dead." Pete wiped down the bar with shaking hands. "Why did you come back, Jack? This town has nothing but trouble for you." "Where is Lang keeping the girl?" Pete's face went pale. "I cannot tell you that. If Lang finds out I talked, he will kill me." Jack leaned across the bar. "If you do not tell me, I will kill you." "Choose." Pete swallowed hard. "The old mining camp, 10 miles north in the canyon. Lang uses it for storage and other business. He has 6 men guarding it, maybe more." Jack dropped a silver dollar on the bar. "Get out of town tonight. Go visit your sister in Denver for a while." "What are you going to do?" "Something stupid," Jack said. He walked back through the door and into the growing darkness. Behind him, he heard Pete lock up early for the first time in 20 years. The mining camp sat at the bottom of a narrow canyon with steep walls on 3 sides. There was only one way in and one way out. Jack left his horse a mile back and approached on foot. The moon was half full and gave just enough light to see by, too much light to sneak in unseen. Not enough light to shoot accurately at range. He counted 4 guards around a large tent. Light glowed from inside. 2 more men sat by a fire playing cards. 6 total, just like Pete said. Jack watched them for an hour, learning their patterns. The 2 by the fire never moved. The other 4 walked circuits that overlapped every 5 minutes. It was decent security for hired guns. Not good enough. Jack waited until the moon went behind a cloud. Then he moved. The first guard never saw him coming. Jack's knife was quick and quiet. He lowered the body behind a rock and kept moving. The second guard was lighting a cigarette when Jack broke his neck. 2 down, 4 to go. The cloud passed and moonlight flooded the canyon again. Jack froze behind a wagon. One of the guards by the tent was looking his direction. The man squinted into the darkness, his hand on his gun. Jack did not breathe. After 10 seconds that felt like 10 hours, the guard turned away. Jack circled around the tent. He could hear voices inside. A girl crying, a man laughing. The sound made Jack's blood hot. He wanted to rush in, shooting, but that was how people died. He forced himself to think clearly. 4 guards outside. At least 1 man inside with Emma. Maybe more. Jack needed to even the odds. He picked up a rock and threw it toward the fire. It landed with a loud clatter. The 2 guards playing cards jumped up with their guns drawn. They shouted for the other guards. All 4 men near the tent ran toward the fire, leaving the entrance unguarded. Jack smiled. Sometimes the old tricks were the best tricks. He slipped inside the tent. A man in a black vest sat in a chair holding a whiskey bottle. Emma was tied to a post in the corner. Her face was bruised and her dress was torn, but her eyes were fierce. She looked just like her mother. The man in the vest started to stand. Jack shot him in the chest before he could get his gun clear. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Jack ran to Emma and cut her ropes with his knife. "Can you ride?" he asked. Emma nodded. Her voice was hoarse. "Who are you?" "A friend of your mother's. We need to move now." Shouts came from outside. The guards had heard the gunshot. Jack pulled Emma toward the back of the tent and used his knife to cut through the canvas. They squeezed through the opening just as bullets tore through the front entrance. Jack grabbed Emma's hand and ran. They made it to the wagon before the guards figured out where they went. Jack fired 3 shots to keep heads down. Then they were running again. The canyon wall loomed ahead. Jack knew there was a narrow path that led up and over, but it was steep and dangerous in the dark. "Can you climb?" he asked Emma. "Yes." They started up the path. Behind them, more gunshots echoed off the canyon walls. A bullet hit the rock next to Jack's head and showered him with stone chips. He fired back twice without aiming, just trying to slow them down. Emma climbed like a mountain goat, fast and sure-footed. Jack struggled to keep up. They reached the top as the guards reached the bottom of the path. Jack could see their faces in the moonlight. Angry faces. Scared faces. Faces that knew Victor Lang would kill them for losing the girl. Jack almost felt sorry for them. Almost. He and Emma ran through the scrub brush toward where he had left his horse. Every breath burned in his lungs. He was not as young as he used to be. But Emma was safe, and that was all that mattered. At least, that was what he told himself. The truth was more complicated. The truth was that he had come back to Silver Creek for Catherine, not Emma. The truth was that some walls never really stopped hurting when you climbed over them. They found the horse and rode double back toward the ranch. Emma held onto Jack's waist and did not speak. Jack did not push her. She had been through enough. She would talk when she was ready. The ride took 40 minutes. By the time they reached the ranch house, the first hints of dawn were touching the eastern sky. Catherine ran out to meet them. She pulled Emma off the horse and held her tight, both of them crying. Jack dismounted and stood back, feeling like an intruder in a moment that did not belong to him. Catherine looked at him over Emma's shoulder. Her eyes were wet and shining. "Thank you," she mouthed. Jack nodded. He knew he should leave now. He had done what he came to do. Emma was safe. His debt to the past was paid, but his feet would not move. He stood there like a fool, watching Catherine comfort her daughter, and felt something crack open in his chest, something he thought had died a long time ago. Victor Lang would come for them. That much was certain. Men like Lang did not forgive. They did not forget. And they definitely did not let people steal from them and live to brag about it. Jack had started something tonight that would end in blood. Maybe his blood, maybe Catherine's, maybe all of them together. The rescue had been simple. 6 guards and 1 man in a tent. Nothing Jack had not done a dozen times before. But loving Catherine again, that was the real danger. That was the thing that could destroy him. And as he watched her hold Emma and whisper that everything would be okay, Jack realized he did not care anymore. He had spent 5 years running from his heart. He was tired of running. The sun broke over the horizon and painted the desert gold. Jack checked his revolvers and waited for the storm to come. Lang's men arrived 3 hours later. Jack counted 8 riders. They stopped at the property line and sat on their horses like they had all the time in the world. Lang was not with them. Men like Lang never did their own dirty work. The man in front was tall and had a scar that ran from his eye to his jaw. He looked like someone who enjoyed hurting people. "Send out the girl," the scarred man shouted. "Do that, and maybe we let you live." Jack stood on the porch with his rifle. Catherine and Emma were inside with the doors barred. "The girl's not going anywhere," Jack shouted back. "Tell Lang he can come talk to me himself if he wants." The scarred man laughed. It was not a nice sound. Lang does not talk to dead men. "You got 1 minute to decide, then we come in shooting." Jack knew they would come, whether he decided or not. Men like this did not give real choices. They just liked to hear people beg. Jack was not the begging type. He raised his rifle and put a bullet through the scarred man's hat. The man swore and grabbed for his gun. Jack fired again and hit the man's horse. The animal reared and threw its rider. The other 7 men charged. Jack dropped 2 more before they got close. Then he ducked inside and slammed a door. Bullets punched through the wood and shattered the windows. Glass rained down on the floor. Emma screamed. Catherine pulled her away from the windows and behind the heavy table. Jack moved from window to window, firing and reloading. He hit another man in the shoulder, another in the leg, but there were too many of them, and only one of him. They spread out around the house, shooting from different angles. Jack could not be everywhere at once. A man tried to come through the back door. Catherine met him with the shotgun. The blast took him in the chest and threw him backward off the porch. Catherine's face was white, but her hands were steady. She reloaded and moved to the window. Jack felt a surge of pride. She had always been strong, stronger than people knew. The shooting stopped. Jack counted 4 men down, which meant 4 were still fighting. He reloaded his rifle and waited. Smoke drifted through the broken windows. Outside, someone was giving orders. Jack could not hear the words, but he understood the tone. They were planning something. "Jack," Catherine called, "the barn is on fire." Jack looked out and cursed. Flames were already climbing the old wood. The wind was blowing toward the house. In 10 minutes, the fire would spread. In 20 minutes, they would have to run or burn. The men outside knew it too. They were waiting. "We need to go now," Jack said, out the front while they were focused on the fire. "My horse can carry 2. We ride hard for town and find the federal marshal." "There is no federal marshal," Catherine said. "Lang bought everyone who matters. Then we ride to the next town, and the next one after that. We keep moving until we find someone honest." Jack moved to the door. "Ready?" Catherine grabbed Emma's hand. They both looked terrified but determined. Jack threw open the door and they ran. Bullets kicked up dirt around their feet. Jack fired his rifle one-handed while pulling Catherine with the other. They reached the horse and he lifted Emma into the saddle. Catherine swung up behind her. Jack grabbed the reins and started to mount. Pain exploded in his left shoulder. Jack stumbled and nearly fell. He had been shot before and knew immediately it was bad. The bullet had gone clean through, but it had hit something important. His arm hung useless at his side. He tried to lift himself into the saddle with his right arm, but his strength was gone. "Jack!" Catherine reached for him. "Go!" Jack slapped the horse hard. It bolted forward with Catherine screaming his name. Jack turned and fired his revolver at the men running toward him. He hit one in the chest, another in the stomach. Then his gun was empty and he was on his knees in the dirt. The remaining men surrounded him. One kicked him in the ribs. Another grabbed his hair and yanked his head back. Jack tasted blood. He waited for the bullet that would end it. At least Catherine and Emma had gotten away. At least he had done that much right, but the bullet did not come. The men tied his hands and threw him in a wagon. They were taking him somewhere. To Lang, probably. Men like Lang enjoyed watching people die slowly. Jack closed his eyes and tried not to think about Catherine's face as the horse carried her away, tried not to think about how he had failed her again. Tried not to think at all. The wagon ride lasted forever and no time at all. Jack drifted in and out of consciousness. His shoulder throbbed with every heartbeat. Blood soaked his shirt and dripped onto the wagon bed. He was going to die soon. He had known that from the moment he rode back to Silver Creek. Some debts could only be paid in blood. They pulled him out of the wagon in front of the biggest house Jack had ever seen. It sat on a hill overlooking the town like a king's castle. Victor Lang's house. The men dragged Jack up the stairs and through a door into a room full of expensive furniture and paintings. Lang sat behind a desk smoking a cigar. "Jack Carter," Lang said. His voice was smooth and educated. "I have heard stories about you, the gunfighter with a conscience, the man who cannot be bought. I have always wondered if such men really exist." He stood and walked around the desk. "Now I know they do. And now I know they bleed just like everyone else." Jack said nothing. He would not give Lang the satisfaction. "You have caused me considerable trouble," Lang continued. 4 dead men, a burned barn, and worst of all, you took something that belongs to me." He leaned close. His breath smelled like expensive tobacco and cheap whiskey. "I want the girl back. Tell me where they went and I will make your death quick." "No," Jack said.
Lang smiled.
"I thought you would say that. It does not matter. I have men tracking them. They will not get far. Catherine will come back when she realizes I have you. She will trade herself for your life. Women like her always do." "You do not know her," Jack said. "She is stronger than you think." "We will see." Lang nodded to his men. "Put him in the cellar. Make sure he does not die before Catherine arrives. I want her to watch." They threw Jack down a flight of stairs into a dark room that smelled like dirt and rot. The door slammed shut and the lock clicked. Jack lay on the cold ground and tried to breathe. Every breath hurt. His shoulder had stopped bleeding, but that was not a good sign. It meant he did not have much blood left to lose. He thought about Catherine.
About the way she looked at him on the porch. About the way she said his name.
He had loved her since he was 18 years old. He had loved her when she married another man. He had loved her when he left town. He had loved her every day for 5 years. And now he would die loving her. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was all anyone could ask for. Time passed. Jack could not tell how much. The cellar had no windows, no light except what came through the cracks in the door. He heard footsteps above him. Voices. Someone was arguing. Then silence. The lock clicked. The door opened. Jack tried to sit up, but his body would not cooperate. A shadow moved down the stairs. Jack expected Lang or one of his men, but the person who knelt beside him was small and quick. Emma. "Can you walk?" she whispered. "How did you get here?" Jack's voice was barely a croak. "Mom created a distraction. She rode up to the front gate and started shooting. Everyone went after her. I snuck in the back." Emma put her arm around Jack and lifted. He screamed but got to his feet. "We have to hurry. Mom cannot hold them long." They stumbled up the stairs. Jack's vision swam. He could hear gunshots from somewhere in the house. Emma led him through a kitchen and out a back door. Horses waited in the shadows, 3 of them. Emma helped Jack into a saddle and tied his hands to the horn so he would not fall. Then she mounted and grabbed the reins of the 3rd horse. They rode around the house toward the sound of shooting. Catherine was pinned down behind a water trough. Lang's men were closing in from 3 sides. Emma fired her rifle and hit 1 man. Jack tried to reach for his gun, but his arm would not move. He felt useless. Broken. Catherine saw them and ran. She swung into her saddle, and the three of them rode hard. Bullets chased them down the hill and into the darkness. Jack held onto the saddle horn and prayed he would not fall. Behind him, men shouted, and more horses gave chase. But Catherine knew the land. She led them down trails too narrow for a wagon, through streams that hid their tracks. Past rocks and trees that all looked the same in the dark. They rode for hours. Jack passed out twice and woke up still moving. Finally, Catherine stopped near a small cave hidden in the rocks. She and Emma pulled Jack off his horse and carried him inside. He could not feel his left arm anymore. That was probably bad. Catherine built a small fire and heated her knife. Jack knew what was coming. Emma held his good hand while Catherine dug the bullet fragments out of his shoulder. Jack bit down on a leather strap and tried not to scream. He screamed anyway. The pain was white and hot and endless. Then Catherine poured whiskey on the wound, and everything went black. When Jack woke up, it was day. Sunlight streamed through the cave entrance. His shoulder was wrapped in clean bandages. Catherine sat beside him, holding his hand. Emma was at the cave entrance, keeping watch. "You should have left me," Jack said. His voice was rough from screaming. "No," Catherine said simply. "I should never have left you the first time." Jack tried to sit up. Pain lanced through his shoulder, but he managed to prop himself against the cave wall. "What now?" "Lang will not stop. He will hunt us until we are dead or gone. Then we go," Catherine said. "There is nothing left here for us. The ranch is gone. The town belongs to Lang. We start over somewhere new. California, maybe. Or Oregon." "We?" Jack looked at her. "You mean the three of you?" "I mean, all of us." Catherine met his eyes. "If you want. If you will have me after everything I did. After all the years I wasted being afraid." Jack felt his throat tighten. "I have wanted you since I was 18 years old. Nothing has changed. Nothing will ever change." Catherine leaned forward and kissed him. It was soft and careful, mindful of his injuries. It was everything Jack had dreamed about for 5 years. It was worth every bullet, every drop of blood, every moment of pain. Emma made a disgusted sound from the cave entrance. "Can you two stop? We are supposed to be hiding." Catherine laughed. It was the first time Jack had heard her laugh in years. The sound made him feel like maybe they would survive this. Maybe they would make it to California. Maybe there was a life waiting for them somewhere beyond the desert. But first they had to get there. And Victor Lang stood in the way. They stayed in the cave for 2 days while Jack regained his strength. Emma scouted and brought back news. Lang had men searching every road and trail. He had offered $1,000 for information. No one was leaving Silver Creek without being stopped and questioned. "We cannot go around them," Jack said. He could move his arm again, though it hurt like fire. "We have to go through them." "Through how many?" Catherine asked. "All of them, if we have to." Jack checked his revolvers. He had lost one in the fight at the ranch. That left him with one gun and maybe 20 bullets. Not enough for a war. Barely enough for a last stand. Lang is the problem. Without him, his men will scatter. They are mercenaries, not soldiers. They fight for money, not loyalty. "So we kill Lang," Emma said. She said it casually, like she was talking about killing a snake. She was her mother's daughter. "I kill Lang," Jack corrected. "You two ride for the border. Once you are safe, I will catch up." "No," Catherine said. "We do this together or not at all." "Catherine, be reasonable. If something happens to me, if something happens to you, I want to be there. I will not lose you again by my own choice." She grabbed his hand. "We are a family now. Families stay together." Jack looked from Catherine to Emma. They both had the same stubborn expression, the same fire in their eyes. He knew better than to argue with Murphy women. He had learned that lesson years ago. "Fine," he said, "but we do this smart. No hero nonsense. We get in, we kill Lang, we get out. Simple. Nothing about it would be simple. Jack knew that. They all knew it. But sometimes you had to tell yourself a comfortable lie to get through the hard truths." They rode into Silver Creek at sunset. The town was quiet. Too quiet. People watched from windows, but no one came outside. They knew something was about to happen. They wanted no part of it. Jack did not blame them. Staying alive meant knowing when to look away. Lang's men were waiting at the saloon. 6 of them this time. They stood in a line across the street with their hands near their guns. The scarred man was there. His hat still had the bullet hole Jack had put in it. He smiled when he saw them. "You got some nerve coming back here," the scarred man said. I came to talk to Lang, Jack said. Tell him Jack Carter wants to settle this. Lang knows you are here. He is waiting. The scarred man gestured to the big house on the hill. He said you could come up. Just you. The women stay here. The women come with me, Jack said. Then the women die with you. The scarred man shrugged. Makes no difference to me. Catherine and Emma flanked Jack as they rode up the hill. No one tried to stop them. That was the first sign something was wrong. Lang would not just let them walk into his house. He was planning something. Jack tried to figure out what, but his head was still fuzzy from blood loss and pain. He was not thinking clearly. That could get them killed. They tied their horses and walked up the steps. The front door stood open. Inside, the house was dark except for light coming from a room at the end of a long hallway. Jack went first, his gun drawn. Catherine and Emma followed close behind. Lang sat in the same room as before. But this time he was not alone. Sheriff stood beside him with a shotgun. 2 more men with rifles stood by the windows. It was a trap. Of course, it was a trap. Jack had known it would be. He had come anyway. Jack Carter, Lang said, you are either very brave or very stupid. I have not decided which. Does it matter? Jack kept his gun pointed at Lang's chest. You are going to try to kill me either way. True. Lang stood and poured himself a drink. But I am a curious man. I want to know what makes a man throw his life away for a woman who chose another man over him. What makes him come back after 5 years and risk everything for people who are not even his family? Love, Jack said simply. You would not understand. You are right. I do not. Lang sipped his drink. Love is a weakness. It makes people do foolish things. It clouds judgment. You could have ridden away and lived a long life. Instead, you came back to die for a woman who does not love you. Jack said, Does she? Lang smiled.
Or does she just need you?
There is a difference, you know. Need is convenient. Love is rare. Jack felt doubt creep in like poison. Was Lang right? Did Catherine love him or just need someone to save her? He pushed the thought away. It did not matter. He was here now. The time for questions had passed. Enough talking, Jack said. You wanted this settled. Let us settle it. Lang set down his glass. Very well. But first, a proposal. You have something I want. I have something you want.
What trade?
What trade? Jack asked. Your life for theirs. You stay here and die. They go free. I will even give them money for their journey, enough to start a new life far from here. Lang spread his hands. It is a generous offer. You should take it. No, Catherine said before Jack could answer. We are not leaving him. See? Lang smiled at Jack. She needs you. But does she love you enough to watch you die? That is the real question. Jack felt sweat run down his back. His shoulder ached. His head was pounding. He was tired of talking. Tired of thinking. Tired of being afraid. He raised his gun and fired. The bullet hit Lang in the chest and knocked him backward. The sheriff swung his shotgun toward Jack. Catherine fired first and hit the sheriff in the throat. The 2 men by the windows raised their rifles. Emma shot one. Jack shot the other. It was over in seconds. 5 bodies on the floor, smoke hanging in the air. Jack's ears rang from the gunshots. He looked at Catherine. She looked at Emma. Against all odds, they had survived. We need to go, Jack said. More men will be coming? They ran back to their horses and rode hard. Behind them, shouts and gunfire echoed through the town. But no one followed. Without Lang, his men had no reason to fight. They would take what money they could find and disappear. By morning, Silver Creek would belong to its people again. Jack, Catherine, and Emma rode through the night and into the next day. They crossed the state line into New Mexico and kept going. They did not stop until they reached Santa Fe. There, Jack traded his last horse for train tickets. They rode the train west, leaving the desert behind. In San Francisco, they found a small house near the ocean. Jack got work as a carpenter. Catherine opened a dress shop. Emma went to school and made friends. They built a life together, quiet and simple. The kind of life Jack had always wanted but never thought he could have. Some nights, Jack would wake up from dreams of Silver Creek, dreams of gunfire and blood, dreams of Lang's smile. Catherine would hold him until the shaking stopped. She never asked what he dreamed about. She already knew. Some wounds never fully healed. You just learned to live with the scars. But there were good dreams, too. Dreams of Emma laughing, dreams of Catherine working in her shop, dreams of a future that did not involve running or hiding or killing. Those dreams made the nightmares worthwhile. 5 years passed. Emma grew into a woman as strong and stubborn as her mother. She fell in love with a banker's son, who treated her like she hung the moon. They got married in the spring with flowers everywhere and Catherine crying happy tears. Jack walked Emma down the aisle. She squeezed his arm and whispered, "Thank you for saving us." "You saved me first," Jack whispered back. At the wedding, someone asked Jack how he knew Catherine. He thought about lying, about saying they were old friends or distant cousins, but Catherine was watching him with those green eyes, the ones that had haunted him for 10 years. So he told the truth. "I loved her when she belonged to someone else," Jack said. "I loved her when I had no right to. I loved her from so far away that it felt like dying, and now I get to love her up close, every single day. That is the only story that matters." The person asking looked confused, but Catherine understood. She always understood. That night, after the wedding guests left and Emma rode away with her new husband, Catherine and Jack sat on their porch watching the ocean. "Do you ever regret it?" Catherine asked. "Coming back for us? Everything you went through?" Jack thought about it. About the bullets and the blood, about the weeks of pain while his shoulder healed, about the nightmares that still came sometimes, about the years he had spent running from his heart. "No," he said. "The rescue was simple. Just another job. But loving you?" He took her hand. "That cost me everything. And it was worth every penny." Catherine leaned her head on his shoulder. They sat in silence and watched the sun sink into the Pacific. The ocean was vast and endless, full of possibilities. Tomorrow they might wake up to trouble. Some ghost from Silver Creek might find them. Some new danger might arise. But tonight they were safe. Tonight they were together. Tonight they were home. And for a man who had spent most of his life on the run, that was everything.